Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is the Thursday, June 12th, 2025, Tucson-Pima County Historical Commission Plans Review Subcommittee meeting called to order at 1:02 p.m. And I'll go ahead and call roll. Terry Majewski is here. Savannah McDonald.
Here.
Andrew Christopher.
Here.
And Joel Ireland. I don't believe Joel is on. Okay, not here.
No, he's not yet here.
Okay, so I'll watch for my phone if there's any texts or whatever. So, all right. Item 2 is review and approval of the 5/22/2025 legal action report. Could I have a motion to approve as submitted, please?
So moved.
Sure.
Okay, we'll have Andrew. Will you second, Savannah?
I will.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion? No? Okay, hold on just one second. Okay, if there's no discussion, Terry votes aye. Andrew? Andrew? Are you on mute?
No, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, aye.
Okay, Savannah?
Aye.
Great, thank you. It passes 3-0. Okay, item 3 is historic preservation zone review cases that we review under UDC section 5.8/TSM 9-02.0 and historic district design guidelines and the revised Secretary of the Interior standards and guidelines. And there was a request to move item 3C up in the agenda to hear that first. Does anyone have any issue with that on PRS?
Nope, that's fine with me.
Savannah, are you okay with that?
Yeah, no issue.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and take that first. Okay, so that's case 3C, CIP-0225-00002 at 1000 North Tucson Boulevard, Himmel Park Splash Pad is what it's for. It's a courtesy review. Staff, do you have any background on this that you want to present?
Yes, so this came to us from Parks and Recreation. So we have Jasmine Chan here and perhaps other members of the team to present on improvements to Himmel Park, which is within the Sam Hughes National Historic Register District.
Great, thank you. And just so that everyone knows, applicants and PRS members, we're limiting presentations to 10 minutes or less, and we're going to hold our questions until after the presentation. It makes the meeting move along more quickly and that all the cases can be heard in a timely fashion. So, okay, Jasmine, will you be presenting?
I'll start us off and then hand things over to Gary Grizzle with WLB Group. He is the landscape architect who's been working on this project. So this is Himmel Park Splash Pad. This is a Prop 407 identified bond project. It is adding a splash pad over to the Himmel pool area. Sorry for the background noise on my end. Gary and the project manager, Joe O'Neill, have done outreach with the Sam Hughes neighborhood and neighborhood association. And this is the plan that they put together. Gary, are you able to share your screen?
Yes, I was planning on sharing. I'll go ahead and share that now if that's okay.
Yep.
Okay, so it says I need to get permission to share.
I just made you co-host, so maybe try again.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
Yeah. Okay, so does everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, so again, this is the Himmel Park splash pad presentation, and we are planning to put a splash pad at the Himmel Park pool area, And just to kind of get everybody an understanding of where it's going, if you look at this map here, it's an overall aerial of the site of Himmel Park. I have the splash pad indicated in red rectangle. That's where the splash pad is going to be located. It is northeast of the pool and directly north of the kids' wading pool, and obviously south of the tennis courts. So that's the general idea of where this is going. So here's the site plan for the splash pad. I'm going to see if I can mark on here. Maybe it'll let me. It's not. So the splash pad is located where the actual water features and play area is going to be in the northeast corner of the pool area, the fenced area, up at approximately the same elevation as the existing pool areas. So the existing pool and the existing wading pool will remain the same. Access to the splash pad will be through a new gate that we would be putting in right at the northwest corner of the fenced area. And people will traverse the existing sidewalk up through here and then be able to use the splash pad at this location. One of the things to keep in mind here is that the splash pad and the swimming pool have to be totally separated with a fence because the pool requires a lifeguard to be present when the public is using it, and a splash pad does not have to have a lifeguard since there's no standing water. So we will be upgrading and putting in new fencing that matches the existing fence, which is it's an ornamental iron fence and it's painted green, and we'll be matching that exactly, and it will come along this area, go along here, and then encapsulate and separate the splash pad from the pool area. A couple things with the splash pad. Obviously, we have the water feature toys, which I'll show on the next slide. But in addition to that, we have this structure here, which is a shade canopy, and it's to provide shade over a partial area of the splash pad. So when you're using the splash pad, you can, some of it will be shaded and some of it will be in sun. And I'll show you that in more detail. Another component is this building. It's actually a new pump equipment building, and it's located. If you've ever been to the splash pad, you'll notice that this area down here is a lower area, and this is an upper area, and it's about approximately 2-foot grade elevation. So this pump building is going to be on the lower area, and it's going to be the pumps and all the equipment like that for the splash pad. And we'll get into more detail in a couple more slides in that. One thing that we're doing is all the existing ramadas, which there's a ramada here, there's a ramada in this area, one here and right here. Those are going to remain. We're going to keep those, and those will be used, 2 of them will be for the splash pad users and 2 will be for the pool users. Another thing that we're doing is right now, this is all existing grass, which so we're removing some grass and a small portion of the concrete deck to put in the splash pad. This lower area, this is going to be the contractor staging area. And so after they're done, we will go ahead and put new grass in here. And up in this area, it will also be disturbed a little bit. And so, because we're building this new wall, and so we're going to put new grass over in this area as well. I'm going to move to the next slide, which is going to show the water play toys, the water features. And I just want to preference this. The illustrator who came up with this was thinking it was in the Midwest, I guess. And so that's why all the trees, they're not desert trees. But I think the point that I want to get across here is here are the play toys. And we're kind of going with a natural woods kind of look. we have the browns and the greens, and we're really trying to match. There's an existing playground that was done a couple years ago that's just to the south of this, and they have generally the same colors as this, so we're trying to keep in that palette. The play item, the largest one is approximately 14 foot high, and it's this piece right here. And this one's very close to 14 foot high. So these they're called trees, but they kind of represent trees, but just more of a characterization of them. So that's the play toys. Now I'm going to go to the shade canopy, which will provide some shade for this area. You can see the play toys in the background. You can see the Ramada that's going to remain in the front. This is the wading pool. This is the shade structure that's going to be put over it. One of the things that we did here was we wanted to keep it in the same color palette as the existing playground. So the fabric shade structure on the playground are these same colors, as well as the posts, which are kind of a brown color, keeping in that natural woods kind of look, and in keeping with the building itself is painted white, but the roof is green, and the fencing that goes around is green. So we're trying to stay in that vernacular. You can see that it's pretty large. We have to have it pretty tall, I guess, 26 foot, 6 inches at the highest point. And this front piece is at 18 foot 6. The reason that it has to be that height is there's a minimum height requirement from the top of the water features to the fabric. And the reason for that, from past experience, is that sometimes kids will get up here and try to get up onto the fabric structure, which, we've got it, and we're going to City of Tucson Park standards specs, and we've got that separation there so that, kids can't do that kind of stuff. So we're going to go to the pump room. Well, wait, first, this is just another look, and this shows the existing playground. You can see where we have the shade canopy over, and the same colors we're going to use over here, and it kind of gives it that kind of woodsy feel. And so we're trying to match what was done in the play area. This is the pool equipment building. This building is it's going to house the pumps and the electrical that's needed for the splash pad. The roof deck, which we're just showing the skeleton of it, but it's going to match the roofing that's the existing Ramadas, going to be painted the exact same green. And what we did on we're going to make, it's going to be out of CMU, but then we're going to face it with brick, and it's going to be painted to match the white so that it will look very similar to the existing Ramadas. So basically, that's the presentation. So if you have any questions, we're here to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Before we start with questions, PRS members, I just wanted to note that Historic Landscape Subcommittee reviewed this, and you received that LAR, and basically they recommended approval of the presentation as made, except with the suggestion that all artificial turf be replaced with regular grass, not artificial stuff, for both historic and ecological reasons. So I think you already made that change, correct, in what you're showing us?
That is correct. And that artificial grass was this little piece right here, and we've changed it to natural grass, which is what it is today. So it's going to work out fine.
Right. And one other point I wanted to make is that the pool house and the pump house are both contributors. They're both contributors to the Sam Hughes Residential Historic District, right? So which one? Those are down
They're
at
right.
the bottom.
Yeah.
They're right there.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, and then your new pump equipment building is right up there in that area, just north of the shade structure, correct?
Correct. That is correct.
Okay, so now I'll go ahead and take questions. Thank you for changing out that to
Yeah.
natural grass, and who would like to go next? And remember, this is a courtesy review, so we're just providing suggestions and asking questions.
Sure, I can go.
Great.
Maybe I missed it. The new pump, the pump building.
Yes.
Do you have, so it's called out white brick and green roof. Is that matching what's already there in the adjacent structures?
Yes, that will match that color, and the brick will be painted white to match. Correct.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, that was the only question I have right now.
Perfect. Savannah?
Yeah, nice design, Gary. Thank you. I appreciate the efforts with all the matching. Yeah, my question was about the turf, but it seems like you've already picked up that comment. And this, it seems like landscapes, they actually like approved it and took action. So we're just doing courtesy. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, they just did sort of an internal motion for us. You know, they clearly didn't understand. It either wasn't listed as a courtesy review. You know, it should have been because it's in a National Register district, not an HPZ. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, Desiree,
Okay.
you don't see any issues, right? They just voted on a recommendation, you know?
Yeah, we
It's
just
not
consider it a
binding.
recommendation.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. And then I guess my question, just out of curiosity, where are the gates? Like where are the kids coming in and out? Is there a connection to the pool side, or can people go straight into this yard?
So splash pad users will come along here, and there will be a gate that they'll enter here,
Okay.
and then they'll come up, and there's another gate here, which during splash pad operations, this one can be open, and then they would enter here. They will not be able to enter the pool area from the splash pad.
Got
It's against the rules. So if you want to go to the pool, you're going to have to go back out around and enter into the pool through the main pool entrance, which is on the south side. So we have to keep that separation. We do have a, let me see, do we have a gate? I think we do have a gate here, but it will be for maintenance only.
Or maybe emergencies or something.
Yes, but it will be locked, until there is some kind of emergency, and then if the maintenance people need to use it.
Yeah, is that some kind of code issue that you can't have a gate? That it seems sort of coming,
Well, the issue is more of you have to separate the two uses because of the lifeguard and the life safety issue.
True,
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's related to like more of an operational piece. So if we were interested in having the splash pad only available when the pool was available, then that's something that we would be able to have like traversable. But since we run our splash pads at different hours and for a different length of time than pools generally, we need to have that separation of operations so that the pool can be or the splash can be enjoyed by members of the public when the pool is not open.
Okay, thank you. So, was your question answered, Savannah?
Oh yeah, that was it. Thank you.
Yeah. So, do either of you have any further comments or recommendations for the project, or are we pretty much in agreement that it's fine as presented, even though we're not making a motion?
I think it's fine as presented. You guys did a nice job of, kind of complementing what's already there with the design. So I'm good.
Yes, I agree too. How about you, Savannah?
I agree. Yeah. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you very much, and we hope it was helpful getting your case moved up to hear it first.
Yeah,
Yeah. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Appreciate that.
Thanks again. Take care.
Thanks.
Mhm. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we'll move up to case 3A, which is SD 0425-00056 / TC-RES-0924-05594 at 538 West 17th Street. So this is basically a compliance review for an existing attached rear porch built without permits. So is this a zoning violation, Michael and Desiree?
No, Madam Chair, it's actually not a zoning violation. So what happened was the applicant here had applied to do an ADU in the rear of this property. It was reviewed by the barrier and approved. Unfortunately, when they were going through the permitting process, zoning realized that there's a rear porch on the main house that was not permitted. And so zoning said, unless that rear porch is permitted, the ADU cannot be processed. And so the applicants and the property owner have gone through back and forward with the building official, with zoning, trying to figure this out. So it's taking a while. At one point, they wanted to just get rid of the porch so that the ADU could be permitted and constructed. But finally, they decided that they should go through permitting to get the rear porch permitted. So technically, they built a porch without going through the permitting process, which the owner did not know. And the reason I said it's not a zoning violation is just to say that they were actually not officially cited, but it is a structure that has been constructed without historic review and without a permit. They are here before you, just like they went to the barrier to get this porch permitted.
Okay, so, yeah, go ahead.
On May 12th, the same plans that you are looking at were reviewed by the barrier and they recommended approval as submitted.
So that would be basically the plans were submitted of the existing porch that was built without a permit, and that's what we're focusing on today, not the ADU, correct?
Yes, Madam Chair, it's just you had already reviewed the ADU and recommended approval
Right.
letter given. So your focus today is just on the rear porch.
Okay. So my question is that it says contribute, it's a full review in the Barrio Historico, HPZ. It's a contributing resource that we use rehabilitation standards. So what's the contributing resource? The main house?
The main house.
Okay, and do we know when this porch was built?
The porch was built sometime between 2010 or before. The property owner bought this house in 2011, and when that porch already existed before she bought the house.
Okay, I just wanted to get it very clear for all the PRS members what we're actually reviewing. So
Yeah.
okay, sounds good. So let's staff, do you have any other information or can we go ahead with the presenters?
We can proceed, Madam Chair. This is a summary that I had to the staff update that I've provided. So you
Great.
can proceed to the review.
Okay. And who is presenting?
My name is Gustavo Silva. I'm here representing the owner, who is Berna Batania, and unfortunately I can't share my screen, so that's the reason it helped me to share her screen. I'm far away on different time zones, so sorry if I sound a bit tired.
No worries. Gustavo, who do you work for?
Myself.
Okay, so you're your own.
Yeah. Our ADU was part of the ADU design competition, and it won, and it's part of the model plan library.
Nice.
Brenda Batania is a worker at a restaurant who's trying to build an ADU for her friends. We've been in this process for over a year. As Michael explained, the ADU got approved last November, but this porch has been an issue going back and forth. So now we're here. So
Okay, well, great. So let's
maybe if
proceed with
Desiree,
the
the location is 538 West 17th Street. It's on El Hoyo in El Barrio Histórico. It's the house all the way to the west side of El Barrio. So it's like the edge of the barrio next to the bike path. That's this photo you're seeing is the house from front. Can you go to 2 slides next, Desiree, please? These are photos of the alley looking towards the house. There is a back porch there behind the white shed. That's like a red post and beam, and that's what we're trying to get approval on. As I explained, the porch was built between 2010 and 11. It was built without permits, but it's already passed all building plans. Like a set of plans has been made for it, so it's built up to permit and built up to code. It was never permitted per se. So we just need the historic review to approve it so we can complete its whole approval process. Can you go to the next slide, please? This is the porch if you're looking at it from the courtyard towards the house. The porch is a very simple 4-column red columns, wood columns painted with a beam and then a tongue and groove and then a metal roof on top. It's about 9 feet high total. It is abutting the main residence, but is not attached to the main residence. So no change has been done to the residence itself, but the porch is built right next up to it. Yeah, if you can go to the next slide, please. This is the development zone. As I was saying, our property is all the way to the west side. And yeah, next slide, please. Everything on that street is a contributing property. And then we have, for example, number 11 on that plan, all the way to the east, has a porch on the front and back. If you go to number 2, it has a porch in the back. So there's a couple of houses in this neighborhood that already do these exact same post and beam porch, either abutting on the front or the back of the property. So it is compatible with what's happening in the development zone. There are some images to show it coming ahead. If you zoom in to the image on the top, Desiree, you can see the front porch barely. But you can see there behind the car, that's a post and beam porch in the exact same building method that the back porch is trying to do, and that's a contributing property as well. In the case of the porch of 538 West 17th Street, it is not even visible from the main street. It is only visible from the side on the bike path. And next slide. This is what I was saying. On the north elevation, you can't even see the porch. On the back elevation, you can see a bit of the porch. And on the west elevation, you can see the porch, how it's abutting to the house, but not touching the main, like not attached to the main house. Next slide, please. This is the site plan where you can see the back porch where it is. It's a 216 square feet back porch. It does not need any variance or anything per setbacks. So we're not requesting any of that. And this is a bit more of images of what the porch is like. So you can see the columns going to the concrete slab on the floor, the posts and beams, and the tongue and groove over that. And then there's a photo if you're walking from the west side of the barrio on the edge of the historic district looking at the porch. And that is all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to point out that the Barrio Historic Zone Advisory Board reviewed the case on May 12th, and they recommended approval of the project as presented after hearing Gustavo's presentation, and it passed by a roll call vote of 7-0. So I don't have any questions. It seems like the porch is certainly it's reversible. It's not attached to the house. It's behind the house. So what are your thoughts? Who would like to start?
I mean, I agree with you, Terry. I don't have any questions or have any concerns or issues. I just feel a little apologetic about all these hoops that the owner is having to
Yes.
jump through. But it seems fine to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrew?
Yeah, I agree. The design guidelines say very little about porches, and I think this is fine. So I can make a motion
Go ahead. That would be
already.
great.
Okay. On the matter of SD 0425000056, TC RES 0924055594 at 538 West 17th Street, I recommend approval of the project as presented.
Thank you. Savannah, will you second?
I'll second.
Great. Is there further discussion?
No.
If not, Terry votes aye. Andrew?
Aye.
Savannah?
Aye.
Great. Thank you. It passes 3-0. Thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you all
Gustavo,
so
with
much.
Yeah, and sorry are you like in Europe right now?
I'm in Europe right now, yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, way far ahead. So get some rest now.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate your time, and just thank you for, yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Well,
And
we
Michael and Desiree,
appreciate
we'll
it.
talk soon. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you. Appreciate it. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Ooh. Okay, item 3B then we'll move on to, which is SD 0225-00030/TC RES -0624-03625 at 425 North Court Avenue. This is for construction of a new 262 square foot detached home, office, and storage building designed in a territorial Sonoran style. The new building would replace an existing on-site parking space. This is a full review, RNA, El Presidio Historic Preservation Zone. It's a contributing resource that we use the rehabilitation standards for. And why don't we go ahead and then we'll look, we have comments from El Presidio, but we can bring those in as soon as staff. Do you have any introduction or should we start with the presenter?
No, the introduction will just be, Madam Chair, this project, the applicant has gone first to El Presidio with the courtesy review. And after that, the El Presidio gave some feedback. Then the applicant came back to El Presidio again with a full review, which I provided the legal action report for that to you, what El Presidio said, which they recommended approval with a vote of 8-0. And they provided 3 conditions. 1, to add a door and window material on the plan, to show the location of the drainage on the plans. And they also recommended waiver of the setbacks to the west and the south lot line. You will recall today I sent a lead message to you saying that a new design package has been submitted because the applicant revised the plans based on what El Presidio said and submitted a new design package, which is going to be presented at this point in time. Other than that, I do not have any further staff presentation, but if there is any question for staff before you turn it to the applicant, I'll be more than willing to answer.
Okay, who then is presenting and what is their affiliation?
My name's Axel and I'm the architect.
And where are you from, Axel? Your last name is Axel Golden. Okay.
Yeah, Axel Golden. I'm from Tucson, Arizona.
No, but
we
what is your
were
company that you work
asking?
for? You're breaking up.
Oh, I work for Studio Golden. It's a company. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can. Studio Golden. Okay, that's fine. Yes.
Okay. I'll go ahead and share my screen if you are all ready.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, let me know if I'm breaking up again, please. So I'll give
I
a
will.
quick little context. I'll give a quick little context. Here's the house, the main house. It was built in 2004, and it's on the corner here of Court and what is this? Court and Meyer. And it's butted to a neighboring house. So it shares a wall and this big metal hipped roof to the house here to the left, if you're looking at this north photo. And the designated parking spot is here with the white car on the bottom. And it is in a territorial style. It's non-contributing. It has tall double hung windows. It has this front porch with the concrete steps and the railing. And it has a small private patio in the back that is a designation enforced by a development code called the RH7. So we're conforming to that as well. This project is to infill this parking space with the car here, with a small building that's going to be used partially for storage and the other part for working space for a home office. Both the homeowners work at home and they work remotely from companies outside of Arizona, but they are living and residing here at this house, and they both work inside the house right now. So here is the development zone. We have Court and Meyer. You can see how the house is abutted to the east. And here's a zoomed in shot of the house. You can see the hipped roof here. You can see the small patio to the south and the parking spot under the tree. This is a figure ground map sort of showing the relationship to the neighboring spaces and forms. This is the new shape here. It's in red of the new building. And I've blacked out sort of these spaces that are similar to the space we're creating behind it, which is a green courtyard space, which is sort of part of the neighborhood's character, to create these spaces that you can sort of see through and walk through and these layering of a courtyard. This diagram is revealing those spaces and pointing out the courtyard, similar massing and setback on these two front cubic volumes, and this courtyard space, proposed office, and the subject property. This is a long view, so you can sort of see the streetscape of these barrio row homes on the bottom, barrio like Sonoran style row homes, and they're right set on the prevailing setback on this side. You can see those two cubic forms I was talking about here over my mouse here and there, and this is the subject property across the street. So there's a closer view of that. This is the prevailing lot line, and this is the subject property, and here we have that parking spot. So here's those open courtyard areas I'm showing. This one has a roof over it, but it's still a pleasant entryway. So we'll keep moving forward. These are the details for the UDC. I'm going to skip these for now. We can go back to them. They're all discussing the non-contributing new construction category for each one. Here's some renderings of what we're proposing in that parking space would be here in place of the window, in place of this double hung window. And then that courtyard, concealed outdoor space, I guess we can call it, entry door here with a bike in the back, because the space is going to be used to store bikes in place of the car, of course. Here's another photo. And then here is a neighboring house. I'm cropping out this form just to show the relationship of what of this cubic massing that we've arranged. Here's another streetscape view. Another one. This is one of the ones directly across the street. You can see a parapet and a lower parapet and a hip roof above, similar to what we're doing here. A lower parapet and a hipped roof above. Here's another view just down the street in the development zone, a lower parapet with a hipped roof above. And then here's that corner kind of pointing out some windows and some door entryways that if you pay attention to this one on the left, keep that in mind, and I'll show you the elevation of the side elevation. These are the materials we're proposing. This is a sort of natural colored stucco that's a smooth sand texture. This is the scupper that's going to be located right on the front. And this is a similar door style with these vertical slats of wood that we're proposing. Here is the site plan, so you can get a view of that backyard and this corridor through this layered outdoor space. Here's that 10 by 10 space I was mentioning. That's for the RCP7. So we'll keep going through the plans. Here's a floor plan. Storage here, office here, steps for a grade change. Here's the wood door. These are some details we can go to if you're interested. These are the elevations. So this is the north elevation here. We have two doors, 10 light and a solid 2-panel, and then a very small 1-by-1 window here. This is right above to the left of the desk, so they can have a view over to the house, to the main house. This is the west elevation as shown in the rendering. Oh, that's that wood vertical paneled door. Wood on wood double hung window. This is the east elevation in the courtyard. This is a long metal window that is called a awning window. And then this is a south elevation. So this is just a flat stucco. Here's a section through the building. You can see the grade change here. Here's the electrical plan. We're going to be running a conduit under the eave here. It shouldn't be too visible, but it's going to be tight to the bottom of the eave. And I'd like to open it up for questions if you are.
Okay, excellent. Could I start with I mean, Michael mentioned the conditions that the advisory board asked for, and we saw that you added the door and window materials on the window and door schedule, right on the plans, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then the location of drainage, did I miss that? Because I was.
Yeah, let me show you.
I just want to ask that, and then I'll.
It's right here. So this is going to be the scupper. This is going to be this scupper right here.
Mm-hmm.
And I can show you a roof plan. We're draining all of this to a gutter here, to a roof scupper here, and then it's going to go through the wall, and it's going to be the scupper is going to be directly below that.
Yeah, little guy. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the plans show it going all the way, bumping out toward the street. Correct. That was your zero lot line issue.
Yes, the zero lot line is to the south and to the west. I believe that's correct.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Who would ever like to go first, Andrew or Savannah?
I'll go. I just had one question. And thank you, Axel. Nice presentation. I think it's a very responsive and thoughtful project. Just the drainage that goes to the west is just the primary. Do you need a secondary too, or an overflow? And will that also go to the west?
Yeah. It's gonna be right here. Oh, where was it? I'll pull it back up again. Yeah. I'd like to put them into one if we need a backup. This is such a small roof area.
Yeah.
But I'd like to loop them into one if possible.
And I appreciate the imagery of the other street facing facades in the development zone. You have like a little over 1.5 feet, right, to do something between the building and the sidewalk, right? And take that water, and are you going to put plants in there, or what's the plan for that little strip of landscape?
Yeah, we don't have any plan to put plants there. I think it's a little too close. That would be I believe that would be not on their property, so I think they could probably get away with putting something, but technically I think it's a right of way area. So there is a ramp there, and the water will flow out the ramp down the street. Does that answer your
Okay,
question?
yeah, it does. It does. I was just curious what I mean. I get what you mean. The right of way. You can get permission to put some plants in the right of way or put something. It must be what everyone else on that street has done, right? That it is the same
Yeah.
condition that they have those little rock walls or the pots of plants or whatever, and that's all in the right of way for those properties as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not proposing to put any rocks or anything. We'll just leave a small patch of dirt there.
Okay.
Okay,
All
thank
right,
you.
that's all I had. Thanks.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Andrew.
Yeah, no comments.
Comments?
Sorry, I was on double microphone. That was horrible. Yeah, it's really responsive to the neighborhood. I think it fits the character well, and you've responded to the context of everything around you really thoughtfully. So well done, and no comments from me.
Great. Well, I really liked how you showed us the little blocks and how they're arranged. That's really helpful for getting an overview of, I mean, we're all familiar with that neighborhood, but it just really brought it home. Thank you. I do have a question though for staff. Why is the description listing this as a contributing resource when it's clearly not? Because it was built later, right? After the period of significance. Is it non-contributing in your minds, or is it contributing?
It's probably non-contributing, Madam Chair.
So it was just a mistake in the
Yeah.
blurb there? Okay,
That's correct.
yeah, I want to be sure that we're on the same page. So, okay, yeah,
We would
nice.
adjust that, Madam Chair.
Yeah, nice project. I wish I had. They're gonna have a little home office there.
It looks, yeah.
It's cool. I wouldn't mind one of those. Anyway, thanks.
We have to go through a variance too to get the parking spot removed
Yeah.
because because it's non-contributing. It's required to have an on-site parking spot. If we were contributing, if the main house was contributing, then the historic board would be allowed to waive that.
Waive it. Yeah.
But because it's non-contributing, we have to go through a variance as well. So once we're done, we've already started the pre-app for the variance. We're gonna jump into that after this process is done.
Yeah, well, I think it's great. So Savannah or Andrew, who would like to make a motion?
Or I can this time. On the matter of SD-0025-0030/TC-RES-0624-03625 at 425 North Court Avenue, I move to recommend approve the project as presented.
Yeah, I just want to bring up before we second that, because normally we review the same plans that the advisory board does. This were they're updates. So, do we want to say as presented, incorporating the advisory board's recommendations, or will it be assumed that we saw updated, we didn't see the same plans as they did? Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yeah, you can do that, Madam Chair, but we as staff, we are also going to review this at the time of generating the approval. We would include and say that the revised design package has included the recommendation from the advisory board. But you can still say that you review the revised plan that includes the comments from the advisory board.
Yeah, I think all we need to do is complete the motion as presented on the revised plans. Are you okay with that, Savannah?
I am fine with that revision, yes, on the adding the term on the revised plans.
Yeah, I think because we may understand it, but that's not easily discernible from just listening to things. if you were not like intimately involved in it. So, okay, so Andrew, do you second that? You're good with that?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay. Are there any questions? I mean, discussion? Okay, if not, Terry votes aye. Andrew?
Aye.
Savannah?
Aye.
Great, so that's 3-0, and good luck with the project. It'll
Thank
be
you.
very nice, I think. So do you have any
Thank you.
questions for Michael or Desiree?
Quick housekeeping for Michael. The bill that we received for the resubmittal, you said it was for something else?
No, it was for this one. We are good.
We're good. Okay, so this is it's for the review that will be to come?
No, I had requested a resubmitter and you submitted it. By the time that I got this, I had not seen your submitter, so you should be fine to go. You don't need to submit anything for this process.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks again, Axel. Good luck with the project.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Sure.
you.
Okay, thank you. Members, we'll move on to item 4, and I just want to point out that we're only an hour, not even an hour into the meeting, and we've already heard 3 cases, so I'm proud of us. Let's move on to then Fort Lowell Historic Zone Design Guidelines, and hopefully we're going to wrap it up for Fort Lowell today for them. Okay, and so who do we have here? Does staff, do you want to say anything, or should we move right in? I think I saw Elaine.
Yeah.
I think we can move right in, Madam Chair. It's just a continuation of the review that has been going on. So I think you can move right into the discussion. So we have time, not unless, Desiree, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't. Just question who would like to share their screen, or would you like me to share it?
Ellen, I think Ellen will share her screen.
I'll share it.
So Elaine, who
Right.
else do you have from Fort Lowell with you?
Mary Lou,
There's Mary Lou.
the chair, and Daniel Hill.
Okay, cool. I just like to know for the minutes. Now, let me ask PRS members, what we're doing on the regular cases is present and then discuss, but I think we need to discuss by section, yes? Or else we what do you prefer to do?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Like we have been doing, and so I think maybe what we do, Elaine, is, I mean, you've made some changes since we last saw you guys. So do you want to review those changes first, or just start where we left off, get to the end, and then you quickly review things that you've done to the earlier portions since we saw you? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and actually, there are only a couple of sections where there are major changes. Most of the other changes that were requested were smaller. So we could just start with those.
Okay, we can do whatever you want to do that, but I think it's good to get an idea of how we want to look at it, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I'd
go ahead.
suggest that we go and we talk about just, if you look at the document itself, and let me share.
Yeah, go ahead and share.
Yeah, these spam calls are making me crazy.
I agree.
You see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So the changes since, oh, I have to get rid of this. Hang on one sec. So we're up to version 10.
Oh, gosh, poor people. But there's been a lot. I mean,
Lots of work, yeah.
yeah.
And I believe that, and what I did was I added a table of contents just to make it easier to deal with.
Good. That's helpful.
The changes that we made since last time at the request of PRS were like in this section, which is on page 4. So we're starting on page 4, the period of significance. That was one of the questions. So we talked about just the periods of significance in Fort Lowell. Cleaned up that map. Applicability, added the UDC designations. Talked about a definition of compatibility. Landscaping, which we'll go into a little bit later. This is just the standard language from the code. Classifications, this is one of the requests, was to do a better definition of the classifications. So these again are from the code with very minor modifications of historic landmark, contributing historic. And then after the last case, this is interesting, that what we would have considered that case a contributing non-historic property. And this again is a definition from the code. Non-contributing does not contain any designated contributing building, structure, national resource, or archaeology. And Terry, do you want me to just go through these and come back, or do you want people to?
Let me just
interrupt?
ask, I just wanted to note, I think what you just mentioned about how the last case was different, I think Fort Lowell is the only one that has the other way.
Contributing
You know?
non-historic.
Yeah, and I think, so that's interesting to me. Go ahead, does anyone have any questions on these revisions that we had requested, some of them, are you good with them?
Yeah, I think I'm good with everything so far.
How
Yeah.
about you, Savannah?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's good to refresh, so. Good.
Yeah, it really is, so go ahead.
Development zone, we've talked about this previously, about the development zone. The request was to clean up that map, so that's a little bit better version of that, and that's also from the code. Let's see, guidance. This is just a minor about building materials, suggesting historic materials. Just expanded on that a little. Site plan, parking vegetation in the context of the semi-rural district. Okay, and then the next major thing was here in design, criteria, style. The request was to describe these styles. So we have, and some of them are ended up being quite long.
But where'd you grab those from, Elaine?
Two people, two contributions. They were actually, two people came up with these. Damien came up with some, and then Alan Scott reviewed them. Sonoran Military, Sonoran Ranch. And it's very specific to this zone, these descriptions. Santa Fe, Sonoran Ranch. Bungalow. And then this is not a great drawing, but I'll try to find a better one. Territorial Ranch.
Yeah, and before you move on, Elaine, I would suggest, unless anyone disagrees with me, you may have already done this, but have a little note somewhere in maybe at the end where you know, thank people or whatever you do, mention that that's where these came from, because sometimes people have questions about, oh, which definition is this? Which definition is that? You know,
Okay.
so I think mentioning Demian and Alan somehow, I think that would be
As
helpful.
reference. Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Were you gonna have Pueblo as well? Pueblo Revival?
Well, that's essentially what we had been calling Santa Fe Sonoran Ranch, known
Okay,
as Pueblo Revival.
okay. I see that
Good
now.
question.
Then texture and color. Thank you, Andrew, for this. This is really helpful. And I pretty much used the language that you provided.
Yeah. One question, Elaine, the definitions of the styles, is that what's used in the district nomination?
The district nomination is really just about Fort Lowell. It's about the fort proper,
And not about these other buildings?
not about other contributing historic properties in the zone.
Yeah, so maybe in your note you could say, because these weren't previously defined, that you've inserted definitions here for clarity, you know, for parity, whatever. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's very useful. Okay.
Okay. Okay, so this talks about Adobe and how to treat Adobe, consultation with an Adobe expert. Adobe specialist is highly encouraged for repairing and replacing.
Good.
Some of this was clarified. And then just added that color selection, architectural detail, windows. Again, thank you, Andrew.
Nice.
And technical standards where they talk about windows and how to treat windows.
And that's the NPS technical standards?
It's a reference at the end, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
This is technical standards from the technical standards manual. And then here on a case-by-case basis, wood-like fiberglass, metal-clad wood windows with appropriate trim and sash may be approved as long as they maintain the integrity and historic character of the individual property. No color should be compatible. And that's to allow, especially the contributing non-historic properties that already have aluminum windows. And they want to replace them. Concrete lintels, landscaping. So the request last time was to talk to the Historic Landscape Subcommittee, which we did. We met with them, and they were really helpful. They presented we had quite a long discussion about it, and they actually gave us kind of a framework for approaching landscaping. And I don't know if you've had a chance to look at this, but to really consider landscaping as modifying, this definition of landscaping refers to modifying for aesthetic purposes, right? Planting hardscape structures, freestanding unenclosed structures, or altering the topography or terrain. So that's in contrast to natural areas, natural environmental areas. So
Okay.
it addresses that. This also talks a bit about the Native Plant Preservation Ordinance. And we talked about the fact, when does that come into play? That's the question, is when does the NPPO come into play? And as we understand it, it comes into play at 14,000 square feet, which in most places in historic zones doesn't apply, but in this one it could, because we have bigger properties, more disruption. So this says some properties are subject to NPPO. As a policy, these guidelines, the board will request an inventory of those protected native plants listed in.
Would it be useful to say when it's applicable or not? Or, I mean, or are you expecting like to bring that up in every review? Does that make sense? I mean, the UDC section is applicable only in certain cases, right?
Right. Yeah, I hesitated to put the definition in here because I think that'll come up as part of the city's review.
Desiree, what do you think of that? Is that good, or do you think it should be more specific here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be helpful. I also see the other side, sometimes definitions and thresholds and things like that can change. So I kind of see both sides, but we could always look to update it in the future if if that threshold were to change. But yeah, it could help with ease of understanding when this applies if we added that number in.
The 14,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Savannah and Andrew, you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with just referring to the UDC section. That way we don't have incorrect information if it changes down the road. The NPPO is a little bit complicated too, so it might be hard to really summarize fully in here anyway.
Yeah, okay.
So landscaping and then historic landscape features. And this refers more to landscape elements that are environmental and cultural patterns within the HPZ, because our HPZ is a little unique in that sense from the other city HPZs. And then it kind of breaks it down to enclosed areas, so walled or fenced areas, and unenclosed areas, because there are also areas here where there are large unenclosed areas, but they're private property. Or maybe public property. Comments about that?
I'm good with it.
And then streetscapes and right-of-way. And what we added here after discussion was that the right-of-way of Fort Low Road and Craycroft Road within the HPZ are considered to have cultural, historical, environmental significance. Because on the old maps and surveys it's referred to as the road to the fort. And then the archaeology is in reference to the Hardy site. So the right-of-way also serves as a natural landscape buffer, contributes to the context of the HPC. Modifications to the right-of-way may be referred to the Historic Landscape Subcommittee. And this they were also going to think about.
Just one thing, it's a subcommittee, Historic Landscapes Subcommittee. Yeah, and landscape has an S. And then subcommittee instead of committee. If you want to make that change. Just look at something here. Yeah. Yeah, so you'll remember that.
Yeah, well, yeah. And then there's more discussion about cultural, ecological, and environmental features. All properties have some element of that should be preserved. Cultural features, and this is where we talked about the evidence of human interaction, like the ditches, the ruins, the ditches, any man-made alterations associated with historic event, activity, or person, or exhibit other cultural aesthetic values. And then ecological features are the natural features or planet elements. And then the environmental features are more that provide a sense of place, but aren't considered to be cultural ecological. So things like landforms, topographical features, geological elements.
Yeah, I have a question. If you go up to the Hardy site, now is there an ASM site number for that?
There
Do you
is,
know?
yeah.
I think I would include, if you have any ASM site numbers, if there are any sites or things mentioned like this, or the Corbett Ditch and other ditches, are any of those archaeological sites with ASM numbers? They probably should be. And my understanding is that, like in Hardy site, the S on site would not be uppercase, but could be. I don't know. I'd have to check them.
Okay.
But I think it's just so that they know that it's actually, a site with boundaries.
And it's been surveyed and
Yeah, and
recorded.
Yeah, and if anyone, if there was ever a question that came up about the archaeological site and, incursions into it or anything like that, it just, I think, will be a little bit stronger that it is a recorded site, not just sort of a local designation, or a
Right.
neighborhood designation. Yeah.
Okay, good.
And also, when you say the Historic Landscape Subcommittee, let's see, where are we here? Modifications to the right of way. Would that also be referred to plans review, because Historic Landscapes or HLS is not, anything in the code? Like, so Desiree and Michael, would PRS have anything to do with modifications to the right of way or not?
Actually, modification to right of way is a Department of Transportation.
Yeah, so I think that, why don't you clarify the wording on that, Elaine, with Desiree and Michael, because it needs to be whatever, because I don't recall that we do modifications to the right of way, but if it's a landscape modification, you might want to get feedback from HLS, but it wouldn't be, and they only make
Required.
recommendations in any case, right? I think we just
Yeah.
need,
Yep. That's correct, Madam Chair.
yeah. So yeah, highlight that wording and work on it with them, because I don't think we have the exact wording that it should be. I mean, as PRS. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, enclosures. We talked about chain link fences, wouldn't be considered to have a precedent for new fences. We talked about that already. Front yards. That the height of front yard walls should be at 4 feet. It's actually up here, no taller than 4 feet as measured from the street side, up to 6 feet on the sides and rear. And then here it kind of clarifies that by saying should be appropriate to the scale. Front yard fences should not block the view of the house. Should be greater than 50% see-through for fences that are 4 feet or less. Front yard fences that shall not block the view of the house and shall be greater than 66% see-through for fences that are between 4 feet and 6 feet. So what that's saying is any front fence should be at least 50% see-through.
Can I ask where the 66% is coming from?
This was from the guideline. This language actually came from the West University guidelines.
Hmm.
I think
2/3.
I thought the WUNA guideline was that like the portion of the fence above a certain height had to have a certain percentage see-through, right? Because I think they can do like solid knee walls with like a fence above or something in WUNA.
Yeah, that's correct. I think I need to look again. I'm not sure about 66%. But
What about houses that have more than just a front street? If they're on the corner and they have a side, do they determine which is, did you kind of define which is the front street and then the other street would be considered just the side wall?
yes, for corner lot, a house that is on the corner, the property owner determines which one should be considered the front side, and then the other one becomes the side street.
But this says all sides visible from the street.
You might
Although
change that
you're-
to like abutting the street possibly. Because if you had like a huge open lot with a tiny little house, you may have potentially like the whole yard visible from the street.
Mhm.
Yeah, in the first statement, it says you can start stepping up at the sides,
Right.
which if you had a side street, you would get to do still.
And that's how we've interpreted it in other historic zones for corner lots. Yeah.
So what are you suggesting, that for front yards in that second paragraph? Is that where the change should be?
Yeah, I think it should instead of all sides visible from the street, it should be the primary street. Just to be in alignment with other historic zone guidelines. And that's a
And with
zoning.
the
Yeah.
code also.
Yeah, because the owner determines what's the primary and the secondary street, and the setbacks and everything are different for those.
Yes, that's correct, Andrew.
Okay, I'll change that. Okay, and then this last thing about walls and fence construction require minor review. We talked about this because the importance of open landscape and Fort Lowell's semi-rural character. That this would be a policy of these guidelines, is that we would request of the PDSD director that a courtesy review by the full board be done on any new walls or fences on modifications on contributing historic properties prior to a minor review or any construction. And that's it.
And just to clarify, that one's the full, when you say full capital B board, that's the HPZ.
Here,
Yeah, that's not
Full
PRS,
board.
that's
right,
yeah, okay.
Okay.
Okay,
My concern here is just a courtesy review is actually nowhere in the code.
I'm sorry.
I say my concern with the courtesy review by the full board, I don't think UDC has any spot for courtesy reviews. But we can talk about that as a staff and then get back to you on that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest too. I mean, this is a recommendation, right, from the board and from PRS. So if you all want to recommend this language, and then we can look, to check if
We'll
there's
discuss that
anything.
as staff and get back to you.
Mhm.
Let's move forward.
Yeah, I mean, we could just say courtesy review in advance of, the full review as outlined in the UDC. I mean, we do courtesy reviews, so we need some way of talking about that because it's a real thing.
Yes,
know.
yes, Madam Chair, but it's not mandatory for applicants to do courtesy review. You
Can
can
we-
suggest.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Can we just advise or recommend?
I think that was our recommendation before on this language, was that the Fort Lowell like strongly encourages
Yeah.
minor review or something like. I think that was the language we had suggested.
But minor reviews aren't courtesy reviews. You know what I mean?
No,
They're-
courtesy review.
Right, but I think it was just saying that Fort Lowell recommends a courtesy review prior to any minor or
Review.
full review.
Right.
Exactly.
There's no full review. That's the problem. There's no full
Right.
review of walls. So here's the difficulty is that if you say that you're going to ask for a courtesy review, the board's going to ask for a courtesy review by the full board before proceeding with a minor review, but their minor review is already started, right? By the person requesting or putting in an application for a wall, they've already started a minor review.
I guess here's a question for the minor reviews, Michael. These typically will go to like TRS and then a designated member of the advisory board. Could the minor reviews for Fort Lowell just be sent to the whole board?
That's what they are suggesting here.
Yeah. So maybe that's then
I think that's,
yeah.
we'd have to discuss more.
That's what
Because that's
we are
kind of
suggesting.
changing potentially, what's required in the UDC. So yeah, I would want to investigate this more and probably check with the city attorney and his office and just see what we can do here.
Yeah, I think that is why we're saying that let's have reviewed this first, because even when the language that Andrew is talking about, recommending that Fort Lowell can ask for a courtesy review, if applicant does not want to do it, there's no way in the code that you can oblige them to do it. You can recommend, you can suggest, and they can choose not to do it. By code, we're allowed to proceed. That's why I'm just a little bit concerned about this. And that's why myself and Desiree are suggesting that let's leave this to staff. Let's talk about it and see what language we can do. It will still be possible for Fort Lowell probably to do the courtesy review, but let's just talk about it as staff and figure out what language to put here to make this consistent with the code.
But isn't it the case that, let's say that a PRS member and a member of the Fort Lowell Advisory Board goes out for a minor review and they say, we want this to go to full review. They can do that, yes?
Yes.
Yeah, so you always have that backup, Elaine. If, or you can say we don't agree and it has to, I mean, that's happened in the past with minor reviews. We don't approve of that.
Yeah.
Correct? Yeah.
That's correct, Madam Chair. We can get on the minor review, and either a PRS member or the advisory board member can say, I'm not comfortable with what is going on here. I want the full board to look at it. Or I do not recommend approval as with what is presented. So there are times that minor reviews have become full reviews. And if on the field, both advisory board and PRS say that, you know what, let's just do a courtesy on this first before we proceed, it can get back to the full board.
Okay, so really what you're saying is to go back to my original language that says that the board will request a full review, not a courtesy review.
I still think we
No,
need to look into that with the city attorney's office.
Because you still will have the option regardless of how it's worded. I mean, if we get out there and do a minor review and it's a mess, then I guess you could say we'll only do this as a courtesy review, you know, turn it down and say you have to revise it or we want to send it to the full board. Because then it would come to PRS after the advisory board saw it as a full, right? I mean, that's what's happened in the past.
That is correct, Madam Chair.
Yeah. So I think it's just, you can still achieve your purpose with this, but I think you have to work with Michael and Desiree so it's not litigious. It doesn't invite litigious behaviors. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah, it's just the mechanics of actually doing that is difficult.
Can I ask a clarification for a clarification of this?
Go ahead.
Is that okay?
Go ahead, Mary Lou.
I'm confused. A courtesy review hasn't necessarily gone to the city at all. They may not even be aware that someone's planning to build a wall, but instead the neighbor has come to us, to the board, and said, you know, maybe they just were talking and we said, well, we'll give you a courtesy review. And then we could discuss with them these guidelines. That's a courtesy review in my mind. The minor review, we could choose where we're on site and say, I can't approve this. I think it needs to come back to the full review. That becomes a different level of concern. And so I see them as two very different things. It's not just turning down a minor review and calling it a courtesy review. A courtesy review may not have any history with the city on it.
No, but there has to be, because if you meet as a board, it has to be agendized on a meeting, is my understanding. Because we do courtesy reviews in advance of a full review, you know, as part of plans review as well. Sometimes, you know, and, you know, sometimes multiple times on some of these huge cases where they're building something downtown and it's a huge development project or something. But the city will know. I mean, otherwise, because you can't be meeting to give a courtesy review without having an agenda. Am I off base on this, Desiree and Michael?
No, you're not, Madam Chair. In fact, Mary Lou, what is happening with the INEGOV now, you cannot just talk to somebody and say, we're going to give you a courtesy review, and during the board meeting, you are reviewing a project. You cannot do that. If that person wants an application or a project to be reviewed as a courtesy review by the board, they need to apply, and that category is a pre-application. In that pre-application, you will indicate that you want a courtesy review by the follow board, by air procedure, by this, by that. It will be agendized as a courtesy review. You can review it at that time. With a courtesy review, you cannot take action. It's a review where you are listening to the applicant and giving them feedback. After that courtesy review, they now can come back to the board again for their full review. But the board cannot just talk to somebody and during a board meeting, we start reviewing their application or their project, saying that you are doing a courtesy review. That is not allowed.
So they have to have a number. They have to have applied to the city.
Yes.
To ask me if they want to build a wall.
Yes, if they want to do a courtesy review with the board.
But my
that's a different. It's okay. Okay, I didn't know that. I thought they could come before they have plans and talk about setbacks, talk about the plans before they even put maybe pen to paper. And I would consider that a courtesy review. So I guess there's different levels of this.
Yeah, so my question is are all walls and fence proposals only to be reviewed on minor review, or can you review them as part of the whole package?
You can review them, Madam Chair, as part of the project. You can review it as part of a project. You don't have to separate them. You can let walls be reviewed if you are doing a big project, you are constructing a house and things like that. You can add your walls and windows and all those kind of things. They can be reviewed as part of the whole full review. They don't necessarily have to be reviewed as minor review. They are
And
reviewed
that's,
minor review only when you come just for the wall or just for a window, but it can be reviewed as part of the whole project.
yeah. So I think this section, this note needs work between you guys working on the guidelines and Desiree and Michael.
Yeah.
I really think so.
And
Right.
I would add that just in general, right, design guidelines, the purpose of them is to provide guidance on design, you know, the historic context, the styles, materials, things like that. And this is getting kind of veering into procedures. And so I just wonder if it's really appropriate to put in here. But, you know, we can certainly talk about that, but I just wanted to kind of bring us back to, you know, what the purpose of the design guidelines really are for.
And also, Madam Chair, we have said that when all the advisory boards, they go through this review, because Desiree just got here, we want to give her an opportunity to go through these design guidelines. Some of these issues that we're talking here, she or myself or Dan will be able to spot some of these things out, and we can talk about it before we get to the final these things. So this will be one of the things that we probably will be looking at. And we'll get back to the various advisory board with certain areas or issues that we see that need to align with the code or which are not appropriate.
Well, this has been through reviews by Dan and by Corin earlier. The only things that have changed since then are these red additions.
Yeah, and so those, I think they do need to be, I think you did point out some other stuff from previous times, right, that they had provided feedback on. But I
Right.
think these new ones definitely, these new additions need to be reviewed.
Right. So the purpose of this, I mean, just to this note here, the purpose of this is to assure that this new wall or modification to a wall on a historic contributing historic property, it is compatible with design, and that we're not surprised. Or that it's not just an individual who's making that decision on a minor review. Because in the minor review, it's generally one person. Or, you know, one board member, one commissioner.
Right, but I think that we're conflating, because a lot of times the things that are allowed to be reviewed as a minor review are also generally reviewed on full plans. You know, so to my mind, it's like if somebody decides to not to do anything else to their house, but do walls and fence construction, then they can come for that. But, you know, we've gotten into a lot of problems with walls and fences because people misinterpret and think they only have to do a minor review on it. You know, so I think we need to look at that. I mean, I think, you know, PDSD needs to look at that and fix the wording. So I think we have to move on to other to finish scrolling through. Yeah, and just
Well,
note
that's
that.
it for that's it for the changes.
Yeah, and so we've basically gotten through to those points. Yeah, so here we've gone through everything. And so what? So if those red line sections still need to be reviewed by Michael and Desiree or whoever else in PDSD, then do we need a motion here that we recommend moving forward? I mean, I would also, you know, I noticed some things that I would change and copy edit them to make them more consistent and things like that. Is there, when would this go before mayor and council?
We don't know, Madam Chair. I think all these things are going to go after Desiree has done her review or staff has done the review and deem it appropriate and that's good to go. Then Desiree will forward it to the director will then send it to the city manager, who will then proceed to cause this to be put in front of mayor and council.
So I would suggest that we maybe have a motion saying that, pending review by PDSD of revised sections and any copy editing that's submitted by X time. I don't know if we really need to see it again, but if there were a lot of substantial changes by PDSD, I might want to see it again. What do you think, Savannah and Andrew?
I agree with that. I think I would rely on Michael and Desiree and Dan to let us know if there were substantial changes in their review. And if it's more procedural and editing changes, then I don't think we need to see it again.
Right, and maybe what we could do, if anyone wanted to read through it and make any suggested copy edits for their consideration, that we do that, that we have a time frame, like when Desiree thinks she would finish her, or whenever PDSD is going to finish their review, that we could do it in a round robin and have all that feedback in for incorporation. So what do you think about that? I mean, what would our motion look like?
How much time would you all want for, taking a closer look and, potentially sending additional copy editing suggestions?
I think
Could
that's
we do-
up to you, Terry, because I don't think I have any copy edits on my end. You're much better at that.
Well, I could get it back in 2 weeks, but you could also be doing your review at the same time, Desiree.
Right.
Or, yeah, so,
And we could do
if-
the end of this month as a target.
yeah,
That's about 2 weeks. Okay.
yeah, and then you could, I could just, if this is the version that I would copy edit, then I would just make them and send them. Would I send them to you or to Elaine as well, or what would you do?
I think if it's.
You could send them to both.
Yeah, if it's grammar and things like that, or just structure, go ahead and send them to me. I'll make those changes.
Yeah, I'll send them to you and then copy Desiree and Michael so they know that I'm done. So, but we don't need that in a motion unless we think it needs to be in the motion. But so what would our motion look like? That we recommend approval of the guidelines of version 10 of the guidelines pending review, final review by PDSC and copy editing or something like that. Or what does that sound like?
Yeah, I think we can do it that way. I don't even know if we need to include the copy editing if we just do that via email with Elaine, but
Yeah. And do you feel, Desiree, that do we need to say anything in the motion, or when would you get back to us if you thought, oh, hey, we're going to delete these sections, or I mean, you could even tell us and we could say, well, we don't need to see that again or whatever.
Yeah, I think because this is a recommendation, that the motion you had to recommend approval of the design guidelines is sufficient. And we could still work offline to make any additional, copy edits with PRS and the advisory board. So I would say my timeline would be similar, about to the end of the month. So I'll aim to give an update by July 1st.
So you don't think we need pending PDSD review in the motion?
No, because that's already required. So I don't think you need that, but I don't think it doesn't hurt to put that in there either.
And that you would return if you felt that there were substantive changes or something like that?
Sure, you could include that.
Yeah. Okay, Savannah or Andrew, which one of you would like to make this momentous motion
Let's see.
in reference, maybe reference version 10, right? Because that's what we've
Yeah.
seen.
Yeah. Okay. I can make it.
Okay.
All right. So, on the matter of the Fort Lowell Historic Preservation Zone Design Review Guidelines, Draft 10, as presented today, June 12th, I recommend approval of the guidelines as presented and that any substantive changes made by PDSD come back to PRS for further review.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Excellent. Okay, any further discussion? All right, Terry votes aye on that. Andrew?
Aye.
Savannah?
Aye.
Great, it passes 3-0. Thank you so much, Elaine, Mary Lou.
Well, thank you all
Daniel.
too for giving this good consideration, and your recommendations have really helped.
And
Well-
I'd like to second that. First of all, Elaine, thank you for the awesome work you did, and for everybody sitting here at the table today, what great feedback you've given us, and the considerations are really important for the preservation of this zone. So I thank you so much.
Well, thanks, and I think we all learned a lot working as a team on this, right? But thank you, and thanks for your patience, and I'm glad we put it on today's agenda. So
You're
Yeah.
glad to be done with it.
We're getting close, getting really
we're getting
close.
close. There's still a bit more, but it's just, yeah, it'll be easier. So, all righty, sounds good, and thank you so much, and we will talk soon again, I'm sure, about something else.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you all.
Take
Aye,
care.
thank you guys.
Okay, item 5 is Task Force on Inclusivity Report Recommendations. 5A is discussion on best practices for naming of city and county-owned physical assets. There's no report. Okay, item 6 is current issues for information discussion. 6A is minor reviews. Staff, could we have an update?
Yes, Madam Chair, we do have too many pending minor reviews. What I would like to do is I want to ask Andrew if I have one particular minor review, which I really want it to be an on-site review with maybe Andrew represented PRS with myself and Desiree, and also I will contact Grace from the barrio. This one is something that the ward office is looking at. Two neighbors are fighting on property line and other kind of stuff, which is just a roof thing. So I really want us to go on site and take a look at it and make a decision on that. That is the main one that I would really request us to do. I'm going to send the plans to Andrew sometime today. If you're available during the week, just let me know, maybe Wednesday or Thursday next week, and we can get that scheduled.
Okay. Yeah, I'll look at my calendar and let you know.
Thank you very much. That
Grace
is-
and I are in the same, work for the same company. I assume
know.
that's fine. Okay, I know you know.
I know.
All right.
I know. But you are representing two different bodies now, so. And then there will be a couple of them that I am also going to send to you for your review. Just let me know whether we actually need to do something or not. And then the one that I can report is, like I said, Andrew helped us with the review of the Econo Lodge, the landscaping minor review requirement that was requested by PRS. He reviewed it and determined that we did not actually need to meet on site or even do a Zoom meeting on that. And that is the way I am we are looking at, since we are still very short staffed, the office is still now just myself and Desiree. So we are looking for some creative ways of trying to get these minor reviews moving. And Andrew has been very helpful to us in that light. That said, I am going to send a couple of just minor ones to you, Andrew, which are just roof and things like that. So that should help us to move ahead. Inside next week, I was talking with Desiree today. I may have to just keep aside maybe Wednesday and Thursday to try to flush out as many minor reviews as I can. I have like about 20 of them pending. And I am going to be on vacation for probably close to 1 month. So I want to do as much as I can before I leave.
And when do you leave again, Michael?
I leave around July 23rd, I think. So I'm still pretty much around. Oh, sorry, June, not July. Sorry. I leave around June 23rd. So I'm still around for another 2 weeks or so.
Okay. All right. So you're going to contact people about the other reviews that are pending, correct?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay.
There
all
is
right.
one in Fort Law which Desiree is going to handle that. That would be at 5565 East Binghamton Drive, which is just a replacement of some damaged windows, about 2 damaged windows and a door in the clubhouse at that address. Desiree is going to handle that.
Oh, but you still need a commissioner on that, yes?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
I know Fort
right.
Law is waiting for it. We'll get somebody from Fort Law, and then we'll be able to find out who is available to help us on that one. It's likely going to be an on-site review.
Andrew or Savannah, could either one of you do that?
Yeah, I probably can. I know if it's on a Friday, I think Joel said he had good availability too, so possible.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So 6B is appeals.
We do not have any, Madam Chair.
That's good. 6C, zoning violations.
We are still working on a couple of projects with zoning violations. I do not have any specific address to report on now, but we're just doing the standard things that we do.
Okay. 6D is review process issues. Would anyone like to make a comment on a review process issue? Okay. I was just going to say that I think this, mentioning at the beginning of each meeting that presenters have 10 minutes is a good idea, and holding our questions, stuff like that. I'm just going to say that I'm concerned that Joel wasn't on, since he called me last night, and I've talked to him several times about this. So I'd appreciate knowing, Michael, if you try to contact him for minor reviews, if you're able to reach him. And it's really important, I think, and I suggest that you text him and call him and leave a message. Yeah. So it's kind of a personal matter that I don't wish to discuss on a recorded meeting. That's okay.
Yeah, I'll do my best, Madam Chair.
Okay, it's just that I'm concerned because we really rely on on him for a bunch of minor reviews, don't we?
We do.
Yeah, and it's helpful. Okay, anyone else?
Terry, I think we had met or we talked a while ago about maybe looking for a fifth member of PRS. Was there any movement on that, or do we think there's anyone that's a good fit?
Well, I really think that Blake Houghton would be a great addition if he's willing to do it. And you know, when I originally talked to him when he was appointed to the commission, I think that we ought to wait. I wouldn't do that to anyone, having them join. Well, we can't have them. We're meeting on the 26th, you know, to do that big review. Let's talk about it further before I might be able to talk to him before July 16th when we meet next and see if he's willing, because even if Joel was still on and didn't want, you know, didn't need to leave for some reason, we would have 5 and our quorum would still be 3.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's
So we would have, if there's anyone else, email me offline that you think we should consider. I'd like to just get them to sit in on a meeting to see what it's like. I mean, it is a big commitment. I mean, when Joel first joined, he came to me and I said, you need to come up to speed on things. I think it's great that you're interested. And he really did study up on things, you know, so he, you know, and asked good questions. And, you know, it's great if we have a bunch of specialists on it, but we can't deny a member of the public who's willing to work at it. Does that make sense?
yeah.
I mean, if we had 7 members and everybody needed extra information, it would be a little difficult. You know, our meetings would, I mean, I think they're quicker because we have it down as a team, if that makes sense. So, but I just want to let you know I'm very concerned about Joel lately, and I don't know what to do about it.
Yeah.
I'm worried about him personally, you know, so. Okay,
Understood.
yeah, so item 7 is summary of public comments. Were any received by the deadline other than the ones for the upcoming meeting?
No, we didn't get any comments for this meeting.
Okay. Future agenda items, item 8 for upcoming meetings.
Yes, so the next PRS meeting is June 26th, and that is going to, you'll see the Fox Theater expansion related proposed demolitions at 17, 25, and 27 North Stone Avenue. So this was rescheduled from, we had a special meeting initially scheduled, and due to a notification error, we had to postpone it. So it'll be seen on the 26th. And then we have for the first July meeting, and I guess I wanted to confirm the date. So it's July 10th. Is that still going to be the date for July?
It would be the 2nd and the 4th, right? 2nd and 4th.
Okay.
So
Because I think the main commission was rescheduled. I just wanted to check that this one
right.
was.
Now,
Okay.
my only issue is that I'm not home till the evening of the 11th, and I doubt I can join on the 10th because it would be the 11th, like at 5 in the morning. I might be able to. So, I mean, I think we should wait closer to the time because I plan on being on the 26th at very early. Well, it's actually the next day. But anyway, I plan on being on at 1 o'clock too sometime. And if I
Thank you.
can't, I mean, it's going to be very touchy because we don't know even if Joel says he will be there and he's not, and Andrew's willing to chair the meeting, he can't do it with 2 people. Correct?
Right.
So,
Okay.
the only reason I couldn't do it is if I simply can't get online, and I will know that like by next weekend.
Okay.
Well, not next weekend, the following weekend. I mean, this next weekend is starting tomorrow, right? No, Saturday, but you know what I mean. I will know around the 20th.
Okay.
So, but I will do everything I can. So, And one other thing I wanted to mention about that, you and I had talked about, you're going to post all the comments for that meeting on the website, right? All the public comments.
Yes, so there are public comments, but we've received a couple more since, so I will make sure that it's updated with any additional ones.
Right, and we were going to do some kind of summary, and if you have any ideas about what that looks like, that would be nice, because we simply can't read all the comments into the record.
Yeah,
Right.
typically what I would do as staff is say, we received X number of letters, X number were in support, X number were in opposition, and then the letters are available. And then as commissioners, members of the committee, if you wanted to, read any particular, you can do that, or, summarize anything. But I would just probably say this number in support, this number in opposition.
Yeah, because basically what I normally do on meetings like that, we don't wait till the end. We say it's important to incorporate public feedback in the beginning. And so then I would ask you, oh, these are posted. This is a new thing that they're posted, because they never were before. And anyone, they've also been provided to us. So, and we'd have to mention, we simply cannot read each one into the record, but you've summarized the for and against. And then I think PRS members look at those carefully, and, if you want to bring up anything in terms of things that are that speak to you, that are sensitive for the review of that project. Does that make sense? Yeah, without discussing the case and how we're going to approach it at this moment. Correct? Do you think that's a reasonable idea, Andrew and Savannah?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
I think if you wanted to memorialize them in the record, you could do what mayor and council does, where you just read the title of, if it's a compiled document or something, and then we could just say that that's part of the record, but we don't have to read all of them.
Yeah, and it is, and unusually, usually these have never been posted on the website before, and Desiree's posting them on the website, which is huge, because they're truly public comments then, as opposed to just ones provided to us. And so, yeah. And if we need to talk more about that, Desiree, we can email about it or talk next week,
Okay.
So, okay. So anyway, what kind of cases do we look like for the 10th?
July.
Yeah.
Yes, so I did want to bring attention to, there is a National Register nomination, so, those can be a little bit longer and more in-depth reading than other items you might be used to, so I wanted to point that out. I did email it to you all, and I'll get that posted on the website as well. We did have a case in West University, 717 North 7th Avenue, that you've seen before. However, it will be coming back to you, so that one we're looking at for July as well. Potentially for the 10th, you may see the All Saints Apartments as a courtesy review. But actually, now that I'm looking at the calendar, at first we'll need to go to the advisory board. So it will most likely would be later in July that you would see that one. I need to update my notes.
I wanted to ask Savannah and Andrew if for some weird reason I can't get on the morning of the 10th, could we move to the next Thursday? And also, if if we're not comfortable that Joel's going to be able to attend that meeting on the 10th, could we move to the next Thursday? What does that look like for everyone? Michael, you won't be back, or you will be back?
No, I wouldn't be, Madam Chair.
Okay.
That Desiree is here.
It looks fine to me, Terry. All the Thursdays in July are open.
Okay.
Yeah,
How about you, Andrew, just in case?
it looks okay.
So
And that would be the 17th.
okay.
But let's not move it there yet until we see if I can get on or not, because then we can get done. And Desiree, have you found previous motions on the National Register nominations?
I haven't yet, but thank you for the reminder.
Yeah, yeah, and if you can't find them easily, I will. Probably the last ones would either be, I should be able to find those LARs from last year about this time, June, July, because I don't know if I can't remember if we had any Tucson properties, but I'm sure we did. Does that make sense? So then we can,
Yeah,
we can all be
have a
thinking
draft.
about what we're supposed to be looking at in what Desiree sent us. And it's just that one nomination, or is there more than one?
That's the only nomination, yes.
Okay. Because it's very specific what we provide feedback to her, to Desiree on, so she can write, you know, the official HPO comments or city's comments. All right, does anyone have anything else they want to bring up?
Nope.
Okay, if not, we're adjourned at 3:03, which is really good. And maybe Desiree, if you wanted to, if you have a couple minutes and you want to turn off, finish the recording and stay on, I'll just chat with you and Michael about my concern. I'd like to talk to everyone, but then we would still be in a quorum situation. But I'll
Sounds
let
good.
you all know.
All right, I'm gonna stop recording. Thank you.